Good day, welcome to your news at noon on Kaieteur Radio for Monday, June 20th, 2022. I'm Kevin Smith, and in your headlines today, oil companies ripped off Trinidad and Tobago 60 years of royalties using loopholes in contract. Guyana warned. While world races towards renewables, Vice President Jagdeo claims solar and wind options are too expensive for Guyana. 8 opposition MPs to be suspended over NRF protest, motion by Privileges Committee for next sitting. Sue gets all the support, Jagdeo tells undercover Vice News reporters. 2 more COVID-19 deaths, 35 new infections, and 2 persons missing after boats collide in Pomeroon River. Stay tuned to stay informed.
Father's Day, it's time to be Dad's hero. Gift him a new LTE smartphone from Digicel with over 40% off selected models. Grab the DL3 Pro Plus for only $12,000 or the Samsung A037 for just $29,000. Plus get a 30-day Prime Bundle plan for him to do all the things he wants. It's everything you need to make Dad feel special on his special day. Offer good while stocks last. Visit any Digicel store today. Digicel, better together.
And now for the news in detail. Prior to December 2017, Trinidad and Tobago had found itself entrapped in a contractual situation with oil companies that most citizens and industry stakeholders described as bordering on being almost criminal. Instead of the companies paying royalties out of their share of profit oil, weak production sharing agreements left Trinidad and Tobago making those payments on behalf of those foreign entities. This was taking place for almost 60 years due to there being no explicit provision outlining that oil companies must make such a payment to the state and that same is not recoverable under any circumstances. In 2017, the country then demanded 12.5% non-recoverable royalty. Taking Trinidad and Tobago's decades-long tragedy into consideration, stakeholders there have urged Guyana to guard against similar abuses early on. And in other news, former UN Champion of the Earth awardee Vice President Jagdeo is claiming that the generation of power in Guyana through renewable options such as solar, wind, and even hydro is quote-unquote very, very expensive when compared to the highly touted gas-to-energy project, which will cost billions of US dollars. Jagdeo's comments come at a time when the world is pushing towards renewables. He was keen to know that due to the expensive cost attached to the batteries to keep the solar power alive, government simply would not be able to afford this renewable option. Similarly, the vice president said that wind blows intermittently, which means the generation of electricity will be cut off when the wind stops. As it regards to hydro, he noted that while the water flows consistently, government has been experiencing challenges with rolling out such a project, as only recently the Chinese contractor, China Railway First Group, said it prefers engineer, procure, construct plus finance option instead of the build, own, operate, transfer arrangement it has with the administration. And moving on, a motion to suspend 8 opposition members of parliament is set to be tabled at the next sitting of the National Assembly. The motion to be tabled is as a result of a decision made at the level of the Parliamentary Privileges Committee following the ruckus which was caused in the House at the December 29, 2021 during the passage of the Natural Resources Fund Act. Last January, the names of 8 opposition parliamentarians were submitted and considered by the Committee for Disciplinary Action to be meted out. We understand that following deliberations of the committee, it was recommended that the opposition MPs, Shara Duncan, Christopher Jones, Ganesh Mahipal, Vince Roy Jordan, Annette Ferguson, Natasha Singh Lewis, Maureen Philadelphia, and Tabitha Haley be suspended from the House. While no date has been set for the motion to be tabled, the Privileges Committee is recommending that 4 of the MPs, Philadelphia, Haley, Jordan, and Ferguson, be suspended for 6 sittings of the House, while the others are to be suspended for 4 consecutive sittings. And in other news, In a Vice News documentary, Guyana for Sale, which premiered yesterday featuring Vice President Bharat Jagdeo, his Chinese tenant and friend businessman Su Ji-rong, is heard accusing Jagdeo of allegedly accepting bribes for large developmental projects undertaken in the country. Jagdeo has denied the allegations and has since signaled that he will take legal action against the Chinese businessman and also promised to evict him from his property. At his good-for-walking East Coast Demerara home, the former head of state told the undercover reporter and her colleague posing as Chinese business investors that he gives his Chinese friend all the support needed to facilitate investment transactions and that he has no dealings with the finances given his role in government. In Su's conversation with the Vice reporter, he claimed to have brokered, among other deals, the Amila Falls Hydro project, reportedly won through the payment of a massive bribe. You're listening to Kaieteur Radio 99.1 and 99.5 FM. The time has now moved on to 12 hours 8. We'll take a short break and return with your news.
This is GHK Lal inviting you to join me weekdays from Monday to Friday on the National Outlook for commentary on a range of issues. Immediately after the 12 noon and 7 p.m. newscasts on Kaieteur Radio at 99.1 FM and 99.5 FM. Looking forward to you sharing in the conversation.
Welcome back. Let us continue with the news. 2 persons are reportedly missing following a boat collision in the Pomeroon around 18 hours 30 last evening. It is understood that the boat, which was powered by an outboard engine, collided with a fishing vessel. 2 individuals from the smaller vessel reportedly fell overboard and are yet to be recovered. Meanwhile, the Ministry of Health on Sunday reported the deaths of 2 more persons from COVID-19. The fatalities, 2 women, a 30-year-old from Region 3 who is listed as unvaccinated and a 46-year-old from Region 6 listed as fully vaccinated. Their deaths take the toll to 1,247. Meanwhile, Kaieteur News publisher Glenn Lal has raised a series of questions in the case he filed against the government's decision to grant extensive tax waivers to ExxonMobil and its partners. In a document submitted to the High Court on Lal's behalf by his attorney Mohammed R. Ali, the publisher has asked the court to determine inter alia whether the acts of Minister of Natural Resources and certain subarticles of the Petroleum Agreement were in breach of Sections 10 and 51 of Petroleum Exploration and Production Act, as well as sections of the Financial Administration and Audit Act. In fact, Lal contends that terms of agreement as it relates to taxes contained in the Petroleum Agreement signed between the government and Exxon is in direct conflict with the petroleum law. Added to this, the businessman said the government did not just grant a waiver, remission or concession, but substituted itself for the agency liable to be taxed. He submitted that the court should therefore consider whether the government can substitute paying taxes for any taxpayer. And Guyana can earn as much as $400 million, the highest medium-term sum among Caribbean nations, if it activates near-shoring opportunities for increased exports in goods, a report from the Inter-American Development Bank has stated. The bank said that nearshoring could add an annual $78 billion in additional exports of goods and services in Latin America and the Caribbean in the near and medium term, with opportunities for quick wins in industries such as textiles, pharmaceuticals, and renewable energy, among others. And now let's tell you the body of a Pomeroon logger who went missing on Thursday last was found floating in the Pomeroon River Sunday morning. The logger, who had been identified as Dannyville Daniels, is believed to be a father of 2 and a resident of Akwani Creek. The man reportedly fell from a wharf in Charity on Thursday evening last. A search party was launched following his disappearance. Around 9 hours 30 on Sunday, the body was found floating within the vicinity of the Big Birdfish Port Complex in Charity. And to wrap things up, 39-year-old Claude Stewart of Costello Housing Scheme, West La Penitence, Georgetown, was on Friday charged for allegedly stealing the sum of $7.1 million from a pawn shop. Stewart appeared in the Georgetown Magistrates Courts before Senior Magistrate Leron Daly. He denied the charge, which stated that between November 20th, 2020 and May 27, 2022, at board Georgetown, while being employed at Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop as a supervisor, he stole $7.1 million, the property of Colin Barker. And as usual, we wrap things up with the page 7 of today's Kaieteur News dedicated to being blunt. Guyanese deserve clarity on 2% royalty. The Vice President's uncertainty as regards to the 2% royalty being recovered by Exxon and his partners signals the importance of contract transparency and stakeholder involvement. The World Bank, the IMF, and the IDB aren't going to ask the hard questions for us, nor will they fight for us. If the rules in the Stabroek Block production sharing agreement are ambiguous on royalty being a recoverable item, then we need to stop pussyfooting and clarify them in our favor. Vice President Bharat Jagdeo's admission has exposed the need for all Guyanese to stand up and demand clarity on the provisions of the oil deal. We can no longer afford to remain silent and allow foreign companies to continue the wanton rape of our resources. Our leaders, even if they haven't realized it yet, clearly need our help. And that brings us to the end of today's News at Noon. I'm Kevin Smith. Thank you for listening.
Want value for your advertising dollar? Then place your ads on Kaieteur Radio's Newscasts. Streamed live on 6 different mediums, reaching hundreds of thousands. Advertise today and watch your dollar grow. Call us on 225-8465 or 226-8210 today.
Diana, join me on the Glenn Lal Show every Monday, Wednesday,